So, Michael, big news. Mean Girls has been removed from Netflix today and is now streaming exclusively on Paramount Plus. This is in America. They have today of all days. It's interesting that Mean Girls has moved to Paramount from Netflix.
So you mean like specifically the day we're recording?
Yes.
You mean Monday the 3rd of October?
Yeah. You know what? I'm going to read you a line for the movie.
Is that? Do they mention 3rd of October on it?
This is Lindsay Lohan. On October 3rd, he asked me what day it was. What day is it? It's October 3rd. And therefore, October 3rd has always been known as Mean Girls Day. And this is the day Paramount have decided to remove it from Netflix. Maybe that was written into the contract so they'd get more,
That's pretty cool.
More attention once it did go from Netflix to Paramount. But yeah, there you go. Today of all days, Michael.
I'd like to Paramount Lindsay Lohan.
That's a good one.
Hello and welcome to Select and Reflect, the movie review podcast where we look at films that have come out in the near and distant past. We give them a couple of watches and evaluate them beyond first impressions. I'm your host Michael and I'm joined as always by my co-host Luke. And this week we are celebrating a spooky October by looking at, you ever heard of the Boogeyman? Okay, a pretty iconic horror character,
the kind
of quintessential monster. Boogeyman, of course. So obviously we to start off Spooktober, the Halloween month, it only makes sense if you're looking at. Okay, because you also think people are scared of the dark, the night. That's pretty scary. Boogie Nights. I just can't possibly imagine how scary this film's going to be. It's going to be about a night haunted by the boogeymen. They're going to be boogieing so much.
When did you first trigger that in your head? Like, oh yeah, Boogie Nights.
You know what? I'm not kidding. I literally did it on the spot. Like, would you believe me if I said that I did it on the spot?
No, I would not.
Luke, why don't you tell us a thing or two about Boogie Nights?
Okay, so Michael, Boogie Nights. What did we review last week, Michael?
Oh, well, yeah, see, I do like this. We reviewed Deep Throat, which is a classic 1970s adult film.
Yeah, adult film. And now we're doing Boogie Nights, which is, of course, about that era in which movies like Deep Throat were made. Boogie Nights is a 1997 American period comedy drama. And not many periods in this movie, I have to say. The film is written and directed by Paul Thomas Anderson, or PTA, as he is known. It is set in Los Angeles in the San Fernando Valley. Of course it is.
Yes.
It is written by Paul Thomas Anderson and also produced by him and stars Mark Wahlberg, Julianne Moore, Burt Reynolds, Don Cheadle, John C. Reilly, William H. Macy. Was this the movie after Fargo for William H. Macy? That could be the case, and of course, he played a brilliant man who had marital issues then, didn't he, as well?
Yes, yeah. I feel like, I don't know, he's got a kind of pathetic face. He's also divorced in Jurassic Park 3.
That's great. Heather Graham, Nicole Parker, and Philip Seymour Hoffman. Quite the cast there. The movie was released on September the 11th.
Wow.
1997, so it's okay. But that was at TIFF, the Toronto International Film Festival, but it was released on October 10th, 1997 in the United States. So this is going to come out like 2 days before the 25-year anniversary. This is the closest we've got in months to an actual anniversary. Of course it is, it's 25 years. And Michael, can you tell me what the budget was for Boogie Nights?
Well, okay, here's the thing. I don't know. I feel like the cast, like obviously Julianne Moore, she had been in that film Jurassic Park 2, which was a big blockbuster. Like the thing is, there's lots of reason to think, based on a few of the people. I mean, obviously, I don't know whether or not Marky Mark, because I know he was like famous as a singer or, musician man, but I don't know whether or not he would have commanded a big salary. There's lots of reason to think it could have been quite high, but then having said that, this film seems very independent. But you have told me before that the 90s can be weird with film. So that makes you think it maybe is still like a decent amount. I don't know if this is going to be ridiculously over or ridiculously under. I want to say 15 million.
What did you say, sorry?
15 million.
You got it bang on.
Really?
Congratulations. Oh, wow, when's the last time that happened?
Oh, wow, it's been a while, definitely.
I know. Yeah, but again, you would think this movie, a decent amount, 15 million, and that's exactly what it was. So congratulations, Michael. That's a great guess. Now, can you tell me what the box office was for Boogie Nights?
Well, no. Again, I mean, so you've said before, like the '90s can be kind of weird, like films that obviously nowadays would be considered, like I don't know what Licorice Pizza made at the box office, but I think it was probably not so much. Maybe this film, comparatively, this was the age where like weird films could kind of do slightly better. I'm not going to go like some kind of ridiculous amount, but I'm thinking maybe like 50 million.
Oh, okay, 50. That is incorrect, but you're still kind of close. It's 43.
Okay,
43. So yeah, a decent couple of guesses for you there. Boogie Nights, one very good guess, of course. And Michael, did you like this movie?
Okay, so here's the thing. I kind of feel like I did sort of have a sense of when I was watching this film, thinking to myself like, I don't know that I'm fully on board with what the point is. I would say overall that I found this film to be enjoyable, in kind of like it's got an energy to it, and that energy means it doesn't like drag or anything like that. Having said that, it is quite long, and yeah, that did kind of make me think, because I feel like the obvious point would be, well, it's about this kind of like era of, and I feel like that's probably what you're going to say. You're going to be like, well, I like it, like kind of almost like a pseudo documentary. It's telling the story of this time in the adult film industry.
Exactly, that is the point. He's trying to capture the essence of that era. Yes.
But yeah, like I mean, I'm like on board with that, and like obviously, spoiler alert, I'm not gonna like rate the film low. So I know I'm starting off in a negative way, but I'm starting off in a negative way because I think I expected to like this film more than I did. So I still liked it, but just a little less than I thought I was going to. And yeah, so basically, I still liked the film, but I was kind of like, as far as like actually watching it, especially also kind of considering the length, I was like, and like the thing is, what I was going to say.
Okay, we'll get on to it.
Yeah, okay, we'll get into it.
Yeah. I will say, again, like I said, it's about capturing the essence of this era, and you can do that, of course. But the question then is whether it's a good movie or an interesting movie. Was this period of time interesting? And I have to say, yeah, it was pretty damn interesting. The golden age of porn, obviously. Porn is, I guess, inherently interesting because it's the taboo element of it. In American society, particularly at that time. And yeah, they were making money, having sex with each other on camera. And
the sluts.
Yeah, high production value, which, those high production values have never been repeated.
Yes.
In terms of probably the amount of money that was being spent.
Did you sit in your joy juice?
We'll get onto all that. What a great line from Jack Horner. That's the character of Burt Reynolds.
Yes.
King George Juice. Yes, wonderful stuff. Right. So let's get into nitpicks. Michael, how many do you have?
I don't really have a nitpick, but I do have. I don't know. Like sometimes I have like comments, but I think this is actually quite a funny one. Like genuinely, I know sometimes I'm a boring, stupid man, but I have quite a funny comment. But it's not really a nitpick.
Okay, go on then.
Okay, my funny comment is, or it's a story really, a long story. No, I'm joking. Basically, when I was a kid, I used to have this idea in my head that like, and I think this makes sense to me as a kid, that the only way in which a film could be adult is to be scary, And I saw one time that they had Boogie Nights, and obviously it was on very late, but it was in the paper, and it said, something to the effect of, Mark Wahlberg plays Dirk Diggler, a man with, an incredible, a very well-endowed man who gets into the drug-addled sex industry of the 1970s kind of pornographic underground or whatever. And I looked at it and I saw it was a Certificate 18 film, and I genuinely thought to myself, and I remember this thought, and this is my first memory with Boogie Nights. I thought to myself, well, that doesn't seem very scary. I don't know why that would be an 18. And I thought that was funny because, it just shows my innocent mind as a child where I was like, well, if it's not scary and it's not spooky, why would, and it's also, of course, very relevant for the whole, it being Spooktober thing.
Of course, yes. Naturally, yes. So anyway, I have one nitpick, which is that somehow Dirk Diggler has not tried cocaine since he entered the industry in the 3 years he's been in there. Because of course, first time he takes cocaine is on New Year's Eve party in 1979, the December 31st, 1st of January 1980, and he started in the industry in 1977. He hasn't ever seemingly been offered cocaine either.
Yeah, because like he wasn't resistant to taking it.
Yeah. So it seems like that's the first time he was offered it, and it's like he probably would have been offered it before, or probably had some before if he's that open to taking it. There's like no resistance at all. And obviously, clearly, it's the first time he's taken it as well. So yeah, that's my one nitpick. But anyway, Michael, let's go on to the plot of Boogie Nights. So it is set in Los Angeles, San Fernando Valley, like PTA loves to do.
Yes.
and focuses on a young nightclub dishwasher who becomes a popular star of pornographic films, chronicling his rise in the golden age of porn of the 1970s through to his fall during the excesses of the 1980s. And of course, things start going downhill right as we hit the 1980s. You know, the 70s were cool and calm, and then suddenly when it gets to the 80s, things kind of fall apart in more ways than one. And yeah, that's essentially what this movie is. It's the rise and fall movie, but for porn and also for Dirk Diggler as well. Yes, the how successful the porn industry was is parallel to how well Dirk Diggler was doing in his career.
Yes,
and then,
he's like the Horcrux of porn.
Shut up. And then it declines, just like Dirk Diggler's career does. This industry. Well, it doesn't decline so much as though it moves from being about films, and that's why they call it the golden age of porn. Not because like porn stopped being made. It's just the quality declined, which again is quite hilarious considering how bad the quality was. Other elements, because obviously the rise and fall thing is pretty like basic. It's pretty standard.
Yeah.
Kind of movie to make. But just not about somebody in the porn industry.
Yes,
which is what makes it a bit.
It adds
different.
the intrigue.
Yeah, adds the intrigue exactly, and it's inherently interesting. And obviously, there's other elements in there like the characters and interesting scenes which make up for the story's basic structure. Well, do you know what first happened before Paul Thomas Anderson made this movie? In reference to, because he also made another movie before this, which was based on Dirk Diggler. Did you know that?
Oh, really? So didn't he made a film? Is it called like Hard something? I saw he like his first film's called like Hard something, but I could be.
Yeah, but I'm talking specifically about Dirk Diggler.
I don't know.
He made a mockumentary short film in high school called The Dirk Diggler Story. And the short itself was based on the 1981 documentary Exhausted with John C. Holmes.
I'm not gonna lie, Luke. I actually haven't seen heard of John C. Holmes. I'm
really?
not gonna lie. Yeah, I mean, I've heard of what's the other guy? I've heard of Ron Jeremy.
Yeah.
But no, okay. John. So am I going to Google him a non-incognito?
John C. Holmes. He's got his own Wikipedia page, and he's got his own picture. Holmes was best known for his exceptionally large penis, which was heavily promoted for its length and thickness. However, no documented measurement of Holmes' actual penis length, girth, tumescence, sexual stamina, or ejaculate volume has ever been confirmed.
This actually reminds me of a time on, again, 4chan, because of course it's on 4chan, where I remember seeing somebody who had a picture of, I think it was, I'll name a porn star. You've probably heard this guy, James Dean, obviously not the classic 1940s actor who died in a car crash.
Oh yeah, the guy who rapes people.
Yes, exactly, yes. The guy who had some quite serious accusations made against him. But basically, some guy had a picture of him, and it was like a girl kind of, like jacking him off, as they say. And like the comment was like, assuming the average girl's wrist is 2.5 inches, and he like literally did like some like kind of copy and paste kind of like stuff, and it was like, this would place James Dean's cock at a maximum of 8 inches, a whole inch short of the 9 inches he claims to have.
Oh wow!
So I don't. Which to be fair, I 100% believe that because who's out there with a ruler?
Well, I guess they must do it because that's their whole life, so they must do it. But yeah, obviously they lie. It's like how NBA players lie about their height. Make themselves seem taller so they get drafted. Maybe it's the same with male.
I'm gonna look up his penis.
Male porn stars. Okay, you do that, Michael, in a non-gay way. Basically, I will have a guess how many movies John Holmes performed in.
84.
573.
Okay.
So you're a bit off there. Yeah.
I will say that having looked at this penis, it looks quite similar to the penis in at the end of the film.
Great. Well,
so I felt like there was definitely some inspiration there.
PCA has an eye for detail. That's clearly the case. Okay. One more guess about John Holmes, Michael. One more guess. See if you can bring it back here. Have a guess how he died or what he died of.
Probably a sex thing. So I'm gonna guess. Okay, here's my take. It's probably AIDS.
Yep.
Because, like,
Congratulations.
okay, yeah. I was gonna say, like, literally, my first thing was gonna be asking, like, it's either some kind of like a mechanical thing where like his like cock bent, or like, you know, like he I don't know, like he ripped his cock or something. And I was like, no, that's dumb. It's gonna be AIDS.
Okay, because you know this character is kind of based off John Holmes, Dirk Diggler.
Mm.
They weren't going to end the movie with Dirk Diggler dying of AIDS, right? I mean,
Yeah, they could have.
They probably didn't have enough time for it anyway, you know.
Yeah, I don't think they would have
Yeah.
been able to give it the like, what's the word, like kind of the respect that it would
Yes.
have warranted.
By the way, I'm just looking here on his penis size, John Holmes. This is from industry associates and longtime friend, so he may be bigging him up, pun intended. Bill Amerson, who said, "I saw John measure himself several times. It was 13.5 inches.
That doesn't seem accurate.
In contrast, medical studies of human penis size have consistently found erections average between 5 and 6 inches, with fewer than 0.2% of penises 9.5 inches or more." So
yeah, I feel like, because I remember one time somebody who I was speaking to, having a rather funny conversation with, observed that if you had a penis that was so big, you would fucking faint every time you got an erection because all the blood would have to go to your cock.
Yeah, but obviously, you know, there's a line from, I think, Wahlberg's character Dirk Diggler, where he says, I think it's at the end of the movie, like he says 13 inches.
Yes, he does.
So yeah, that's clearly how big he is in the movie, and of course, therefore, Paul Thomas Anderson probably got that number from, you know, reading about how big John Holmes's penis was. So
I feel like what it is, though, because you got, okay, so like, let's assume the average penis is like 6 inches, okay, but then it's like, I bet like if a cock's like 50% bigger than the average dick, that's pretty big, but it's still only 9 inches, you know, whereas like 13 inches, that would be twice the size of, and that's a generous average, but twice the size of the average dick, and then some. So like, really, I think 13 inches would be ridiculous. That's my take.
But there's a reason this guy was a legend.
Yes.
And yeah, that was clearly the reason. But anyway, so Boogie Nights, back to the story. Of course, you know, it's based off this 1981 documentary, Exhausted, where John C. Holmes was in it. A documentary, again, about his life. And Boogie Nights helped establish Mark Wahlberg as well, who, of course, played him as a film actor. He was previously only known as the frontman of Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch.
Such a bad name.
Just a funny name, of course. Anderson originally wanted the role of Eddie, or Dirk Diggler, to be played by what actor, Michael?
Keanu Reeves. No. Like, is he like kind of a guy who's kind of big in the 90s? I'm almost wondering if it was like Adam Sandler or like some kind of like comedic guy.
It wasn't Adam Sandler.
I mean, it would make sense for it to be like a comedic guy because the film is kind of comedic. Is it a comedic dude?
No, not really. No. I'll give you a clue. So he was in the Basketball Diaries. And basically...
Oh, is he black?
No.
Okay. Is it Jeff Goldblum?
Wow, you racist. Fucking hell. He enjoyed the screenplay, but had to turn it down because he signed on to star in another 1997 movie, which grossed a lot of money.
Is it Jeff Goldblum?
No.
Will Smith?
No.
Oh, you said it's not black. See, I was thinking Jeff Goldblum because I know a lot of Jews are in... So 1997 movie grossed a lot of money?
Yeah.
Oh, crap. The only thing I can think of is Jurassic Park 2, which obviously...
Well, I'll give you a clue. It made the most money of any movie in 1997.
Leonardo DiCaprio?
Yes, Leonardo DiCaprio.
Okay, that's an interesting one.
Would he have been better than Mark Wahlberg?
I don't think so. And also, like, the thing is, like, imagine his... Because I know when we reviewed Daddy's Home, you were quite derisive of this film because you said that it gave Mark Wahlberg an ego.
No, I don't think
okay, you said it introduced the idea of like Mark Wahlberg as like this kind of, because basically there's a whole thing in Daddy's Home 2, Daddy's Home 1, as everybody knows, where Mark Wahlberg's got a big, actually it's implied he's got a big pair of balls because basically Will Ferrell's having fertility issues, and you said that the idea of him having a lot of sexual prowess clearly just comes from the film Boogie Nights. Now I feel like Mr. Leonardo DiCaprio, I feel like he's already got a bit of an ego, you know, his whole environmentalism thing telling us what we can drive, whether to turn our lights on, you know, what a dickhead, right? So I feel like, imagine if he also starred in the film where the plot was that he had a big dick. I wouldn't agree with that.
Imagine that. Just imagine that one.
Yeah. I also, but having said that, I would have like created a weird situation with like women, because obviously like Titanic is a very kind of, it's a romantic film for women. It's fair to say. I think that's a very fair description of Titanic.
That is where, yes,
whereas,
the audience, it's targeted at women.
Yeah, because I don't know exactly how women would interact with the film Boogie Nights.
I mean, they'd enjoy it, I think.
Yeah, I think they would enjoy it, but like it wouldn't be like, because obviously, you know, Leonardo, Titanic, that's like a kind of beautiful romance that obviously really appeals to kind of your emotions. Whereas I feel like, to be honest, having a big dick is actually mostly just kind of a status thing. I think most women would rather do the whole Titanic. They'd be like, they'd rather do the
Yeah.
Titanic on the bow thing
Well,
and get
obviously,
railed
'cause-
by a 13-inch cock.
Well, obviously, because Marky Mark, he didn't become a sex symbol after this.
No, yeah, that's true.
That was the case. It was beforehand when he did those fucking Calvin Klein adverts. I remember seeing with Kate Moss, which she was kind of forced into. I remember it would have been interesting to see DiCaprio. Of course, he couldn't because of Titanic, but it would have been fun if he did both. You know, that would have been a real crazy in 1997 for DiCaprio.
Yes,
Yeah.
Dick Caprio.
Yeah, I do wonder because, of course, if he was like a teen heartthrob because of his role in Titanic. If he'd been Boogie Nights, of course, in this role, would he have still had that status? Because then he is viewed a bit differently.
Yeah, I feel like that would cause a lot of from like the kind of that would create a moral panic in itself.
Yes.
It'd be like Satan, communism, DiCaprio's dick.
Oh yeah, and Al Gore's wife, Tipper Gore, probably.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, they were the moral panic, like it's fucking, the teenage girls that who do they admire? Somebody who's appeared in a movie depicting a porn star with full frontal nudity, even though obviously it actually wasn't his dick, but whatever. So that's an interesting world we'll never get to live in. But anyway, so let's get into the actual movie, Michael. So the first scene, we get a super long shot of Maurice's club, don't we?
Yes.
Showing all the main characters. It's just this really impressive shot. And of course, you know how old Paul Thomas Anderson was when he made this movie.
It's like 20.
20. Obviously, he wasn't 20.
He was like 20. He was exactly 20. I don't know, like what, like 25, 24?
26.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
26.
Mid-20s, I was thinking.
Yeah, when this film was getting made. And of course, that is incredible, right? 26 years old, this was his second movie, and it's very well directed. I really like what he does. He just, like, in these scenes in particular, the party scenes and the scenes in the club,
Yeah,
he just
travels around.
Yeah, just lets
leisurely.
the camera... Yes, just lets the camera flow. He does it as well when Eddie gets back to his house. Yeah, just lets the camera flow, moves, and it feels so natural. Like,
It feels so minimalist.
Yeah, he's just observing a scene rather than like showing you stuff in the movie. And yeah, I do like it. And of course, it happens later again when they're at the pool party at Jack's house. A good way to show the porn world as well. It feels very authentic and really does a great job of again capturing the essence of the era and the place, which is of course what he wanted to do. So yeah, I'm just a real big fan of those shots. They're always nice. There's like 4 or 5 of those moments in the movie, and it's this is really good. Yeah, I like it.
I would agree. I think, obviously, so these long shots, they're always a classic. And ultimately, I think obviously like the other thing is they do need to serve a purpose, and in this case, yeah, they do, because it's kind of like, especially with that kind of like party atmosphere, there's that sense of like being a bit of a social butterfly. You're kind of moving around, going with the flow. It works. Yeah, I agree with you.
And yeah, obviously, Robert Elswit is the cinematographer responsible for the shots. So. Good job, him. Yeah, still really good and nice to see. So we have this busboy, Eddie Adams, who meets obviously this porn filmmaker Jack Horner. Do you like his name, Michael? Jack Horner. So.
Yeah. I feel like I've heard that name before, but it might just be, I don't know. Like I've seen this film before, but when I like heard the name, I was like, oh, Jack Horner. Is he like a famous guy? But apparently not. So I don't know.
Okay. Well, it's just I think they have Horn in his name and Jack as well. I don't know.
Yeah, because it's like a jacking off someone who's horny.
Yeah. Yeah, and I do wonder whether Horner has heard about Eddie Adams, because otherwise there's no way he'd go and talk to Eddie. He must have known about his huge dick, right? He must have known. And,
yes.
It's very it's a very weird scene, and then I love how Eddie's like, just, hey, do you want me to get it out? It's $10 for me to jack it, $5 to look at it, just out of nowhere. That's a great moment. And obviously he wants to, he's this humble busboy, but he wants to be a big star. And I do wonder, like, why was PTA so interested in this? I guess because it's inherently funny. Because you get the rise and fall of big stars in sports, acting, musicians, of course. What did we watch? Oh yeah, Bohemian Rhapsody. That was very much like that, and apparently the new Elvis movie is that as well. But just
I didn't know. This is the first time hearing that there's a new Elvis movie, which is quite embarrassing for me.
Are you fucking? What the fuck do you mean? This is the first time you've? What the fuck?
Well,
do you
know
do
what?
with
I think I actually saw. The thing is, you know what? Actually, now I think about it, I think I saw a still from it. But I didn't like realize it was like, because I saw someone posted an Elvis Presley picture on Twitter, and I was just like, oh, I guess it's just people talking about Elvis.
You live under a rock. Have you not seen the Tom Hanks wears a fucking fat suit?
Yeah, you know what? I saw Tom Hanks wearing a fat suit, so I just didn't know. Yeah, I just didn't know they made a movie about it. I thought it was just like a load of like. I mean, okay, yeah, cool.
Fucking
cool.
Baz Luhrmann.
All
And
right.
I can't believe, and you haven't heard of the "he's white" Tom Hanks meme either, where
No.
yeah, here it is.
That's the thing. He's white.
He's white.
Yeah.
He's white? What do you think, Texarkana? Shall we play for the 27th?
This is on the radio,
Yeah.
and Tom Hanks paces towards the car in his fat suit,
He's good.
and then he delivers the crucial line.
Wow.
He's
That's-
white.
See, like, sure, okay, so, like, I know this is just another thing, but, like, sure, there must have been, like, a lot of discourse around this, because obviously,
Yes,
Elvis.
that particular clip has got 8.2 million views on Twitter.
Yeah, because the funny thing is, I actually also saw somebody, like, complaining about, some jealous person was complaining about Elvis's success on Twitter, saying, like, oh, they, like, posted, like, it was, like, kind of, here's a list of all of the black artists who should have been more successful than Elvis.
Yeah, I know, and
yeah.
but that's the thing, obviously
It's just the woke loony left.
Guess what? Racism existed, so obviously that wasn't going to happen. And of course, Tom Hanks, hearing he's white, it's such a stereotypical scene. Like you can see the dollar signs in his eyes, and that's the thing. That's the scene from like all these shitty movies that, of course, Walk Hard. That was the movie with John C. Reilly.
Yes, yeah.
That they parodied that. Is like this guy gets like noticed, and there's this big moment where he's like, oh, he's white, and
Yes.
that has become a meme, by the way, as you can imagine. He's white. And this movie, Boogie Nights, you don't have that exact moment.
He's got a big cock, but he's white.
Yeah,
You'd
exactly.
think he'd be black.
That's the thing. You see, you see Roller Girl have sex with Eddie Adams, and that is the moment. That's the equivalent to "he's white" moment in Boogie Nights, when Jack Horner's looking at them and he raises his eyebrows slightly, like, "Oh yeah, we got a star in our hands."
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is
But sorry, go on.
I was just gonna say, like, also, I mean, it isn't, I don't know, maybe, but like, I do actually find it funny the way I like play off kind of like the whole like the whole idea of like having some kind of innate talent, like the idea of like a porn X factor,
That's
which is
why it's
obviously what this
funny.
film means to do, is very funny to me. But I did enjoy that like aspect of like everyone just being like amazed by him. It's just like, oh wow, he's just got it, and it's kind of like he's just banging people.
Yeah, I know. That's what's funny.
Yeah, it
It's
is
like, this
funny.
guy's going to be a star, and he's just like, well, he's just born with a really big dick. Like, he didn't have to work hard at all to
I
get
know,
it. Like,
yeah.
athletes or musicians, they have to be really talented. This guy is literally just like all like luck and no talent. As I guess you have to be, you have to be able to ejaculate on time and all of that. So yeah, I guess there is an
Some
element.
self-control.
Yeah, there is an element to that, I guess. But yeah, obviously, I do. Again, it's inherently funny. That you do this rise and fall thing, like for Elvis, for instance, or sports movies, acting stuff. The Marilyn Monroe movie, which just came out, called Blonde. I imagine that does a similar thing, I'd imagine. But why not do it for porn? Again, it's funny. This guy doing the American dream, but for pornography. And yeah, maybe it parallels what PTA wanted to do in movies. How we'll get onto that in a bit, actually, when he has the scene with his mother, and how that maybe parallels him and his life. But let's get on to Jack Horner and his idealism, because you get this, of course, passionate porn producer, which again is a funny concept, as he wants to make a really good story after they've come. He says, after they come, how do you get them to sit there in the movie theatre in their own joy juice?
Yes, like that line, joy juice. I just loved it.
Oh, you loved it, did you?
Yes, joy
Okay.
juice.
Joy juice. It's such a weird line. I don't know how PTA thought of that, but there you go. And of course, you get these people, that the main character who wants to be a star idolizes because of, their passion or, something like that. He's clearly very knowledgeable, and, it's a master and apprentice thing, and Jack can be a mentor. Again, it's just funny you do it for porn as well.
Yes.
Again, that's just what's funny about it, isn't it?
No, yeah, definitely. And yeah, I mean, like, that's the thing. Like, I guess it's like the way this film does take itself seriously does work as a kind of inherently funny joke.
Yes.
And
Yes, but-
I like the idea of him being a visionary.
Yeah, exactly. He's a visionary. Like, he spots the best talent. And how long is your penis? Wow.
Yes,
Okay. There you go. That's all he needs to do.
Yeah,
And
he's
yeah,
basically a glorified ruler.
Yeah, exactly. And obviously, he has sex with Roller Girl, like we said, who only wears roller skates, which is an interesting gimmick. They never explain that, but whatever. So Eddie's mother. Let's talk about her now, Michael.
Yes.
because she's an interesting character because she doesn't need to be in this movie. This particular character, she doesn't add too much really. Well, I guess I say she doesn't add too much. Of course, she adds something, and she gives a valuable insight into Eddie's character. But she didn't need to be as horrible as she is, basically.
Yeah.
And Anderson says he thinks there's a reason why he made her like this. So Anderson says he thinks he slighted the audience during the scene. Maybe the scene was coming from a personal place, and I was blinded and wasn't doing my best job as a storyteller. I look at it now, and I wish it was 10 minutes longer. Which is interesting. So the dialogue isn't great. What's your problem? Maybe I'll run away where you can never find me. Please don't be mean to me. I'm going to be something I am. But that's the thing. It feels so realistic as well.
Yes,
that's the thing. It is truly a realistic scene, isn't it?
No, yeah. And obviously, so I'm assuming now you're going to reveal that he also had some kind of like beef with his parents, or perhaps specifically mother, when it came to his ambitions of being a filmmaker.
I wouldn't say beef is the right word, is it?
Some furious anger.
Yeah, that's more appropriate really for this. So obviously Joanna Gleason played Dirk's mother, and she did an interview where she talked about performing the scene for the first time with Paul Thomas Anderson. And she describes it as such. So I sat there like she sits in the movie, and I did the whole scene from a seated position. Read it just as it was written. It was powerful, and at the end of it, I asked Paul if this was based on his mom. He was so jet-lagged that his little eyes were watering. I thought, never mind, we don't need to go there. I didn't mean to push a button, and he didn't answer, but I said, if it is, you never have to forgive her. So, yeah, very interesting. Clearly... Paul Thomas Anderson was replicating his mother, and he clearly has some
mummy issues.
Yes, which we'll probably see in Licorice Pizza, maybe, and we'll maybe see as well in this movie later on with Julianne Moore's character. Yes, but yeah, again, it's that's why perhaps it feels so realistic, because it's like, hey, write what you know, and he clearly knew that, didn't he?
Yeah. Which is, like, I didn't know that, but that is actually quite interesting to hear that obviously it was coming from a very real place for him. I know, I was thinking, like, because the mum scene, I mean, obviously, the mum scene, I do think, like, obviously, so it sounds like even he was admitting, like, it was a little bit weird and out of place, and I kind of feel like, you could say, like, there isn't necessarily much of a point to it, because it's sort of like, or rather, okay, so obviously, like, you can say there's a point in that it shows, like, his frustrations with his situation, but having the mum be, like, that kind of aggressive and, like, basically shouting at him, being, like, really kind of abusive, feels a bit weird when it's not something that's really kind of dealt with in the film.
It is dealt with.
Well, his attitude towards his mum isn't dealt with, though, is it?
Yeah, it is, because that's why he has this weird relationship with Julianne Moore.
Yeah, okay, I suppose that makes sense.
But
yeah.
What I'm saying is, it didn't need to go as hard as it did. Like, it's a really intense scene.
Yeah.
It's like, that's why I said he needs to have a bad relationship with his mother. I mean, I guess, he doesn't need to, because the Julianne Moore storyline doesn't need to be in the movie, but of course, it adds something to the movie, so it's good that it's in there. But yeah, obviously, there was a very specific place where it came from, and again, obviously, Paul Thomas Anderson, he wanted to be a filmmaker, and I imagine, he had these dreams, and I imagine, his mom, just like, Dirk Diggler wanted to be a porn star.
Yes.
I imagine, again, that's how it parallels his life, perhaps, in a weird way, but yeah. So we get another party, and again, exploring this era of porn that, Paul Thomas Anderson clearly is fascinated with, and we see a lot of interesting stuff at this party. Again, really gives us a great glimpse into what life must be like, and it's like, wow, this is what happened in this era at this time. And again, I think it is, in the history of porn, I don't know when porn started per se, but I guess on video at least. This is probably the most interesting time. Like, I mean, that's why it's called the Golden Age, obviously, because it's like, you could be a real actor, you could be really famous,
Yes.
And yeah, so let's see let's see all the crazy people that are at this party, and obviously there's the guy who gets cooked by his wife.
Yes.
William H. Macy. There's the what does he say? Like, my wife has a cock in her ass on the driveway.
Well, see, the weird thing is, he says, my wife has an ass in her cock. I don't know if he said that. Yeah, he actually, yes, I'm like 100% sure he says that, because I was like, that's weird. And the thing is, okay, so here's the thing, I should say this. I will often, when we're watching movies, because I watch movies with subtitles, I mentioned this before, and I will often send like screenshots out of context to my fiance, and I was going to send her
That's funny.
the line, "My wife has a cock in her ass," because I thought that'd be very funny. But then, and so because I was like thinking about that, I then
In the
noticed,
driveway.
it says, "My wife has an ass in her cock," and I think like it. So obviously, what I think it was supposed to do is show how he was kind of like flustered and like basically like, which works. So it was interesting that he did that.
Genuinely, I think I do remember like me writing that line down, and I'm like, wait, is that how he said it? Because I didn't remember him saying it like that, but I'm like, well, he must do, because if he said it any differently, it wouldn't make sense. So that's interesting. But yeah, obviously, the driveway is crucial, not just.
Yes. Because otherwise, yes.
Yeah. And obviously, you get some more great stuff with the girl who OD'd, and Philip Seymour Hoffman then is introduced this character. I just love it when he showed up in the movie, because he's just a joy, because I'd obviously kind of forgotten. I've seen the first time I saw this movie was ages ago, so obviously I knew Mark Wahlberg's in there, John C. Reilly, Burt Reynolds, Julianne Moore. I was like, oh yeah, Philip Seymour Hoffman's in this movie. Oh yeah, that's great. What a lovely character he is, and what a great actor. And obviously his character is really, really fun. In this movie, every scene he's in, he just adds something, doesn't he?
Yeah. He is an interesting guy, and it's a shame that he is dead. But no, wow. I mean, obviously he's one of those fat gays, because they got the fat gays. They got like, gays can only be two kinds of things. They can either be, actually no, they can be all sorts. They can either be like really buff or fat. But no, like
they can be twins. Yeah, obviously.
I agree with you that he is just an interesting kind of a character in terms of I guess he just shakes up the dynamics.
Yeah, no, absolutely he does, and every scene that's the thing. Like, why is this movie so memorable when it's got quite a basic story? Of course, there's other elements, but yeah, Philip Seymour Hoffman's character is a great reason why. And yeah, obviously, the Colonel asks Eddie, "May I see your cock?" And then he just thanks Eddie in such a calm way. He's like,
"Yes,
thank you, Eddie." It's just, you gotta love
it's like a teacher at like show and tell. Like, thank you for sharing that with us.
Wow, that was magnificent. Thank you very much. Just great really writing, impressive. Great writing, great delivery. John C. Reilly's character, he's kind of funny as well. You can tell how jealous he is of Eddie, and he's just so naive about it. He just doesn't know, like he's jealous. Again, a great dynamic there, and of course, eventually they become friends. But here's the thing: Adams gives himself the screen name Dirk Diggler.
Yes.
Do you like that name, Michael?
I think it's a name that I could see in a neon sign, and the neon sign would just explode because it can't contain it.
Exactly. And he becomes a star because of his good looks, youthful charisma, and unusually large penis. I'd say that last one's the most important one.
Yes.
Mark Wahlberg, I think, in this movie gives such a good performance. I mean, I know Julianne Moore got nominated for an Academy Award for this.
Yeah.
But I think this might be the best performance in the movie, I have to say. Mark Wahlberg delivers the best performance. And yeah, he wasn't actually nominated for an Academy Award, was Mark Wahlberg. Burt Reynolds was nominated, and Julianne Moore was nominated. Paul Thomas Anderson was nominated for Best Screenplay as well. He didn't win. None of them won. But the fact that Mark Wahlberg wasn't nominated for Best Actor is shocking, because he was so good in this movie. I think he's the best actor. He gives the best performance in this movie because, well, crucially, obviously his performance is kind of comedic, and he's very naive as well, and he managed to display those qualities well. And we know he is good in comedies, right? We know from
Daddy's Home,
The Other Guys, and The Happening,
and Daddy's Home.
Yeah, and Daddy's Home and Daddy's Home 2. So,
yes.
It isn't a surprise he's good in this movie, because, he has to, we've seen from later on in his career, he has to be, he's good in comedies. But, I think what is a surprise is it took him so long to get back to comedies. If you think about it, he gave his best ever performance playing this, like, comedic role and doing it so well and being...
And then next he did, like, Planet of the Apes, right? Like, what was...
yeah.
Like, I feel like, I mean, to be fair, the only things I can think of him doing were Planet of the Apes and The Happening.
Yeah, he wanted to be an action star, didn't he? I think he appeared in The Italian Job as well.
Oh, yeah, The Italian Job, yeah, I'm looking at this,
The remake of that. But yeah, that's the thing, he plays a
The
naive...
Departed, of course.
Oh, yes, The Departed, yeah, he plays a badass
a lot
cop.
of serious films there.
Yeah, again, but he's not going back to comedies, even though, like, his best role was in a comedy when he gave the performance of his lifetime. I guess he wanted to take his career in a different direction. But obviously, he plays a very good naive guy, because, he's dumb in real life. So that works very well for him. And, also, his looks as well. He's just perfect for this role. Like, the enthusiasm, the earnestness he displays is amazing. So I truly do. It is remarkable considering, like, his kind of reputation, like, how he could give this great performance.
Like, he went from Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch. Like, that's just so funny. No,
considering he was like the Harry Styles of his day, and he gives a performance like this, it is unbelievable, really, when you think about it.
No, I agree. I think like it does create an interesting thing because there is a sense when you're watching it, at least there was for me, especially like, I mean, or less so because obviously he's famous as an actor now. But I was kind of thinking to myself, like, obviously this is, I wasn't really sure of the timeline, but I was thinking this is got to be pretty soon into when he started acting. And of course, looking it up later on, I was like, oh yeah, I'm right. I was like thinking to myself, would I be expecting him to do a good performance? And that was kind of something I was thinking about in the back of my head, which obviously...
Probably not, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, you consider... I said he's the Harry Styles of his day, considering how Harry Styles has performed recently. Obviously, going from young musician to, he's I guess, a teen idol somewhat, to performing in, like, a serious movie. Obviously, the character, Dirk Diggler, it plays to his strengths. But yeah, it's still incredible, really, how good he was.
Yeah. I agree, and obviously, he does do a really solid performance.
It's more than that.
It's more than solid. I mean, I mean solid in like a better way, but like obviously, and this film does require quite a bit of kind of range. Obviously, there's vulnerability, there's aggression, and there's like no moment where, and obviously, because this is, and also, I mean, he the other thing that he has to do, which I think, I mean, I've heard say is quite a difficult thing to do. I'm not sure to what extent it is act out bad acting. Because like he not only has to act well, but he also has to convincingly act as a young 17-year-old kid starring in porn, being bad at acting. And he does a pretty good job at that too, with like I kind of know what it's like, hi there, I'm here for the job that I have to do for the movie. I really want to make some, so yeah, like that's obviously another testament to the kind of quality.
Yeah, no, he's great in it. Again, like that's the thing. Bad acting. What is it? It's comedic, and as we know, he's very good at comedic stuff. So yeah, this role fit him like a glove. It really did. Yeah,
and it also explains why he was really good at acting, being aggressively beaten up by a bunch of homophobes.
Yes, that's a good point. Yeah, and it is. It's crazy that it took him so long to get back to comedies again when his best ever performance was in this comedic role. But yeah, clearly wanted to go in a different direction, and so we get a sex scene then with Julianne Moore. Afterwards, Eddie Adams' first big scene, and this is what I took from the scene, and Roger Ebert says it very well. He said, "Few films have been more matter of fact, even disenchanted about sexuality. Adult films are a business here, not a dalliance or a pastime, and one of the charms of Boogie Nights is the way it shows the everyday backstage humdrum life of porno filmmaking." And yeah, it is enjoyable because of that. I look behind a curtain at something you think of as like so, well, I guess intense as well, but so like again taboo, so like seedy, and it's just just a normal job for these guys, working a 9 to 5, just like everyday normal people doing this kind of job. That's I find that, of course, it's interesting, isn't it? The contrast.
I do agree. Like I do find that aspect interesting, and I think it's obviously like any kind of, I guess, behind the kind of like seeing people. Like a film about making films, stuff like that. But I guess it doesn't have to be about making films.
Well,
actually, just a film about
different.
I was gonna say like a film about kind of an industry which obviously has some kind of like, I guess I'm not gonna say glamour, but like a seediness, or that kind of like it's taboo, which is obviously I think the term that was used. And then you just see it. Yeah, yes, exactly. I knew that term was coming from somewhere. Yeah, and then you see like. Actually just it's kind of, and I think that's like an interesting thing too, of like it's one of the kind of fun things about like The Sopranos or something, where it's like you got gangsters, but like there's also just the kind of like the shit they have to do, and that's kind of interesting.
Yeah, exactly. That's what makes it so good, and inherently again funny, the contrast. And yeah, it's enjoyable, and obviously they all admire Dirk Diggler. And again, I love it when they're all really impressed by his performance, and then obviously William H. Macy's like, "Oh, we didn't get the cum shot," and then they're like, "Oh, how are we going to solve this?" And like Eddie Adams just says, "Oh, I can go again, Jack," and I would love a reaction shot of Jack and William H. Macy when he said that, because it's just like, oh my god, this kid is just incredible. They found a star.
Oh, on that note, I was gonna say I really did like just like when he like takes it out and you just have like the kind of shots of just people like reacting. And I thought that was really funny.
Yeah, no, it's
wow, like they've just seen something incredible.
It's such a good scene, and of course we talked about the fact that Dirk Diggler has mother or mommy issues. So this is why he has sex with Moore. First, I guess Julianne Moore's character, who's called Amber Waves. That's it. And obviously, PTA perhaps also has these issues.
Yes, the freak.
And yeah, again, which we'll see in Licorice Pizza perhaps. And obviously Moore earlier on in the movie is called a mother by Jack, like she's the mother of the house or whatever. He says that, so it's very clear what PTA is insinuating here. Like, and obviously she multiple times says like Jack is one of her two. Sorry, not Jack. Eddie or Dirk Diggler is one of her two boys.
Yeah,
she's got two boys, Andrew, and she's like a mother to both of them, Andrew and Dirk Diggler, and of course she has sex with Dirk Diggler. So yeah,
but
clearly
not with her other kid.
No.
Otherwise, she would have really had trouble getting custody.
Yes, again, that's a good point. But so yeah, she clearly has issues somewhat, and so does Dirk Diggler. And so yeah, that's an interesting dynamic that goes on throughout the movie as well. And with his friend and co-star Reed Rothschild, Dirk pitches a series of successful action-themed porn films. And of course, he produces one of them. What's his? Is it Brock Landers? Is that it?
Yeah, Brock Landers. Yes.
Yes,
and I really like how into the names they are in this thing. It's like, that's a great name.
The names matter, obviously. Why do porn stars have these names still obviously today?
Yeah.
The names matter. I don't know. Well, I guess just to make them memorable, and you need a pseudonym. So why not?
What would be your porn star name? That's like a really kind of like, I feel like you probably won't have a good answer right off the top of your head.
That's a Pope is gay question.
That's, oh good god, yeah, okay.
Don't. You're not allowed to take that. That's mine.
Oh no, but it was my idea. Okay.
No, I mean, who cares? Anyway, it's. But that's the thing. Obviously, he's producing these movies. Is Jack Horner, and obviously, he admires them. And these are meant to be really successful, but obviously you see the acting and the action, and it's really bad. It's like really bad quality.
Yeah.
And it's so funny watching Jack Horner then turn around and say, "This is the best picture we've ever made."
I know. Yeah.
It's some shitty action movie with like bad dialogue, and it's like just the perfect line. I want this to be the movie that they remember me by.
Yes.
It's awful, and it's like we talked about with Deep Throat. All these reviews for porn movies that were taken seriously, even though they were all like very bad and poor quality. And I think Paul Thomas Anderson is mocking that the fact that these directors thought they were doing something cutting edge and new, and it just was complete shit. So yeah, he is mocking that. Although, do you know who had a problem with the scene, Michael? Do you know which director had a problem with the scene?
Quentin Tarantino.
Yes, well done.
Really?
Yeah.
That was such a guess. Okay.
Well, it was another up-and-coming director in the 90s.
Yeah, makes sense, yeah.
Yes. He said that Jack Horner would not say that, like, I want this to be the movie they remember me by, because the character is based off Gerard Damiano. That's it, Damiano. The guy who directed Deep Throat. We went over this last week, of course, Michael. Yes. And that, he said, Quentin Tarantino, that Damiano was a better filmmaker than that, because he'd seen some of his movies, because he said he worked at a porno theatre. And he said, you did get stuff like that, which was displayed in Boogie Nights, the bad acting, the bad action, but Damiano made better movies than that. And he says the character of Jack Horner is based off, of course, Damiano. So basically, PTA is slandering Damiano, like mocking him for being a bad director, producing these movies which were meant to be like artistic and were actually shit. When in actual fact, Damiano produced better stuff than what was displayed in this movie as an example of the stuff that he would have produced. So yeah, that's interesting. So,
that is actually quite interesting, yeah. Good old Quentin Tarantino coming to the rescue.
Yeah, coming to the rescue.
Defense of Mr. Horner. Again,
I think if it's specifically parodying Damiano, then again, maybe PTA's off the mark, but parodying...
Yeah, I think like obviously you could say... What's it called? Like when you like stretch an analogy? Like obviously it's worth noting that like maybe it's just like it's supposed to be about kind of the porn industry in general, and they just like chose, it kind of reminds me of something I saw recently. This is actually a really good analogy. Family Guy, same thing, did a thing where like it was like an episode where the premise was they were trying to win an Emmy, and it basically just involved them parodying various kind of shows that won Emmys, but they specifically kind of like centered it around being a Breaking Bad parody. But they also threw in like loads of parodies to kind of like other other TV shows like Game of Thrones and Homeland and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And there were loads of people in the comments being like, well, this isn't a very good parody of Breaking Bad at all. What's the deal with all of these secret agent references and things like that? And it's like they didn't understand that it's a parody of like Emmy-winning dramas in general. Sorry, I don't know why I'm defending Family Guy here, but Emmy-winning dramas in general with like the kind of packaging of, and I feel like what I'm saying is this Jack Horner thing is like a parody of kind of studio, like porn studios.
But but that's the thing. Quentin Tarantino made the point that he specifically, PTA made him look like Damiano. Like, he specifically went and made him look like that because that's not what Burt Reynolds actually looks like in real life. So, yeah, that was a specific choice. So, yeah, I get what you're trying to say. It's like, oh, no, it's just like, in general, he's parodying the movies of that era. But because of the design of Burt Reynolds' character, it's like, oh, yeah. Yeah, no, he was going for something there. Even though PTA said he wasn't going for that. You know, Tarantino disagrees, and who am I to disagree with Tarantino in that? So then we have the decline of the porn industry, Michael. So this is what happens next. So obviously with these action movies, these Brock Landers movies, you know, Eddie Adams or Dirk Diggler is at his peak, right? And the porn industry is also at its peak with him at the forefront of it. And of course, it's symbolic that Jack Horner is told about the videos, tapes on the night. The 70s then turn into the excessive 80s.
Yes.
And yes, videotapes are the new thing. That's the future of the industry. But of course, Jack doesn't want to stop shooting on film, just like Tarantino. And yeah, it's also the night that obviously, you know, Dirk Diggler tries cocaine for the first time, showing, okay, this is going to be his decline. And I imagine, obviously, cocaine was around in the 70s, but it's famous for being abused, shall we say, in the 1980s. We have the assistant director, Little Bill Thompson, who discovers that his adulterous wife, you know, is having sex with another man. And I like this from Wikipedia. Bill, tired of repeatedly being cuckolded, shoots the pair dead and commits suicide. So, yeah, kind of a very symbolic night. The 70s turns to the 80s. The decline of Dirk Diggler is shown. That's what's going to happen. The decline of the whole industry. And, yeah, I guess him shooting his wife, just more, oh, this is all turning very shit now, isn't it?
Yeah. It really does show. And yeah, that's kind of thing. You, obviously, again, like, I feel like you could say, well, that was a bit random that this guy just randomly shoots away from that kind of stuff. But no, yeah, it does make sense within the kind of wider context of obviously what it's saying about how, like, you know, the kind of like general sense of like decline.
Exactly. Yeah, and that, like we have peaked, and now things are going down. The golden age of porn, we're starting to see the finish line, and these are the first, you know, the first few clues to show, oh yeah, this isn't gonna end well. And obviously then the next part of the movie is things turning bad. Of course, you got the rise and then the fall. Colonel James is incarcerated for the colonel for causing an underage girl to overdose on cocaine, along with possession of child pornography. And obviously, you know, if he was in Hollywood, he would have gotten away with it. But naturally, he wasn't in the right film industry, was he?
Yeah. No, yeah, he really bet on the wrong horse.
Yeah, he did. And Dirk finds it increasingly difficult to achieve an erection due to his drug use and falls into violent mood swings and becomes irritated when Johnny Doe basically challenges him for his roles in the movies. So yeah, this is the part of the movie where everything goes wrong, isn't it,
Yes.
Michael? Yes.
Yeah, exactly. So actually, I had a word for this. I wrote down that this was the Requiem for a Dream section. And obviously, I know this was before Requiem for a Dream. But like the thing is, it wasn't as but like it was kind of like the idea of like it happens and kind of like talking about, I guess, when it really kind of culminates, like when it like, and it has like kind of like the sad music playing as like everybody's kind of like driving along doing like their you know, like they're being forced into prostitution. Well, it's mostly like a sex thing. But yeah, like I was thinking of this, and it reminded me of like towards the end of Requiem for a Dream, where you have like obviously the guy goes to prison and the other guy loses his arm, and the other woman goes to the club place, and the guy says ass to ass.
Mashed potatoes. That's what he said.
Yeah. But yeah, so basically like that's kind of, which obviously what I'm saying there is it's kind of obviously Requiem for a Dream, very famously. Everything goes horrible for every single character. And it's kind of the same thing here. Like, everything's going horrible for every single character.
Yeah, and that's because, of course, the industry that they're in. That was, you know, and that obviously happened in real life. And yeah, this part of the movie really I think relies on, like you said, it all goes wrong. So obviously, we expect this to happen with the rise and fall kind of movie, but this part of the movie really relies on the characters because it's all a kind of a similar theme. Obviously, are you invested in them? Well, kind of, because they are enjoyable characters, but for the most part, they are one-dimensional stereotypes. So it's like you're not that invested in, because obviously, like the fucking, I find it hard to feel sad for like I was going to call him Marky Mark, Dirk Diggler, because obviously he's just
because it's not that serious. Well, yeah,
because he's a caricature.
Yes.
So it's like it's hard to feel like that sorry for him. But yeah, obviously, like you have a standard formula here, rise and fall, but with porn. And yeah, it's just the kind of the same product, but just a new exciting flavor to the stuff we have seen again with musicians and their stories. So yeah. That's what I feel at this part of the movie. It's like, okay, I get you have to show this. I get that's the point of the movie, to show the decline. But yeah, again, I'm not really interested in the characters, and obviously it goes on for a while, like you said.
I think so. Yeah, I'm kind of in agreement with you. I think so. Generally speaking, with like a film, it's always in this modern saturation of information world we live in, it's very hard to like stay focused on something. And I'll often like think about a film and I think like, when do I first get the urge to do something other than watch the film?
This is just your ADHD.
Well, I don't know. I feel like I feel more validated ever since Mike Stacklosser admitted to leaving the room when Wonder Woman was playing.
That drunk moron.
I know, but yeah, basically like the thing is like obviously there are plenty of films which literally like they have me captivated the whole time. But generally speaking, like, I would say a film's good when I can like get through a whole hour and I'm just so engrossed in the film I never even think to myself, I wonder what's happening on Twitter or whatever, anything like that. But this moment where you kind of got into like the sad scene was the moment where I thought to myself, I kind of want to go do something, make a cup of tea, go, just do something. Which obviously, is just a sign of the fact that this was the moment where the film kind of like felt less engrossing for me. And it sounds like it's kind of similar for you. Like you're less invested in it at this point.
Yeah, I think you are. Yeah, and that wouldn't be the case if these characters were interesting.
Yeah.
Again, they're just kind of one-dimensional kind of characters, a lot of them, and it's not really played for laughs that much. Partially it is the scene where Dirk Diggler wants his stuff back, or wants the demo tapes. Obviously that's played for laughs, but yeah. Obviously there's another theme though, which is good, which is it's very difficult to move on from the industry if you want to get out, or have a normal life. So Amber Waves, Julianne Moore's character, loses a custody battle with her ex-husband because, of course, she's involved in porn and obviously the drugs that come along with the industry. And the court says she's an unfit mother. And the porn industry obviously is the central reason why, and everything that comes with it. Buck Swope, who is Don Cheadle's character, marries fellow porn star Jesse St. Vincent, who becomes pregnant. Because of his past as a pornographer, Buck is disqualified from a bank loan and cannot open his own stereo equipment store. And again, it's funny how these people say they're an actor, when again they're not really. I mean,
that's what happened. I remember when Sasha Grey, I assume you know her, she like got in kind of some beef for like she was like reading to school kids.
Yes.
And like she kind of came out and she was like, I'm an actor. I deserve respect. And a few people were like, I don't know if like.
I mean, you are. I guess you can say you're an actor, but you are a actor in porn. Like the most important thing is like you.
Yeah, you got to clarify where.
Yeah, you have sex on camera. That is the thing that you do. That is the reason why you get paid. If you just did the acting, obviously you won't get paid. And if you did, you can do no acting and basically just have sex with whoever on camera, and you can still earn a living like that. The acting obviously is secondary, and it's kind of funny and also a bit depressing to see these people like, no, I'm an actor. Like, you're not really. That's I'm not saying he shouldn't have got his loan.
It's kind of like, oh bless.
Yeah, it's like, you're not an actor though, are you? Damn it. But anyway, so basically people can't move on from porn, and obviously neither can Dirk, who gets beaten and then narrowly escapes a drug deal with Alfred Molina. And yeah, it is inevitable, I guess, that Dirk, will be spat out on the other side as the, this vulnerable young man, who entered the industry, and then he gets spat out and, is forced to deal with, he can't deal with life, obviously, and neither can a lot of the other characters, because, what PTA, I guess, is saying here is this industry inherently is harmful to people, or at least it was back then, like it was the golden age, but like it did ruin people's lives if they tried to get away from it. essentially because they couldn't, because they were still kind of trapped, really. And it is quite a depressing part of the movie, really, considering certainly the first half, I will say. Don't you think, Mike?
Yeah, I do agree. Like, again, it's kind of is
Yeah.
part of that moment of the film trying to be kind of more serious and somber.
Yeah. But that's the thing. You also get like a heartwarming ending when
Yeah.
I guess they realize they don't really have anything else. But at least they have each other. I guess that's the message.
Yeah,
Like,
the heartwarming ending was funny. Or weird.
Yeah. Well, no.
I also found it funny. Okay, like, I just want to say this real quick. I found it weird that, like, one of the scenes in the heartwarming ending is, like, the child pornography guy being miserable in prison. And the thing is, like, I want to stress, okay, that I'm not saying that people who do child pornography don't deserve to feel sad and, to feel, I'm not saying they deserve happiness. But, like, at the same time, I wouldn't, like, necessarily... It's kind of like if, like, there was a film about, like, a murder, and, like, then you got, like, the happy scene at the end, and then it just, like, cut to, like, the murderer, like, sad in prison. It's kind of like, well, I mean, obviously it's not a horrendously sad thing that he's sad, but it just doesn't really qualify to me as, like, a happy, feel-good moment either. So I thought it was a bit weird.
Yeah. Okay. So, yeah, I think that it is a bit weird, but yeah, I do like how it's like, oh, they are kind of a family, because it is. I didn't expect it to end like that, because it's like it's a very depressing like segment of the movie, and it's like, oh no, they still have each other. That's nice. And,
It is funny.
That is all they have, and but it is all they can do, and it is all they have. But yeah, it's a good thing to end the movie with. And once you're in, you're in it for life. Basically, you can't get out of this industry. And yeah, obviously, they just didn't decide to end with Dirk Diggler getting AIDS, which would have been even more depressing. But I guess PK, he didn't want to end on that note. He didn't want to end on a depressing note. He wanted to end on a decent note where people are happy. Yes, they couldn't get out from this industry. They didn't get what they wanted, but at least they're still together, and they still got each other, which is kind of nice. And like you said, Michael, we see Dirk Diggler's dick as well, which obviously is a prosthetic, right? It's not actually Mark Wahlberg's. We can assume.
No,
that.
yes, I think it's fair to say it's not really his, because you just got to think otherwise. Like, I guess there could be a massive irony to the fact that maybe they were like, I need a guy with a massive dick, and then obviously based on that, it would suddenly turn the fact Mark Wahlberg had a massive dick into being as significant as Dirk Diggler having a massive dick.
Yeah, and then he'd be in porn movies.
I know, yeah.
Instead of Planet of the Apes.
Yes.
Yeah, which may have been a better career choice. Who knows?
Yeah. I thought you were going to say which may have been better as a porn movie. I was like, okay, that's an interesting preference.
Okay, no. I mean, he does fall in love with that ape, doesn't he? That sexy Helena Bonham Carter ape. Yeah. Right. So, Michael, let's conclude. You go first.
Yeah, all right. So, basically, I kind of said at the beginning, like, obviously this film, it's not like, it's not as, like, ironically, it's got a very kind of conventional narrative, the whole kind of rise and fall thing, and yet at the same time, it kind of feels like it has a bit of a unconventional narrative, partially, I guess, with all kind of, like, the different random characters who sort of just have their moments of just showing up and then kind of disappearing. Obviously, the most obvious example being the guy who just, like, shoots himself randomly. Overall, I would say, like, the narrative wasn't necessarily that focused, and I think there are, like, really good films that don't have a narrative focus, and that's generally speaking if, like, either one, they're kind of really creative with their filmmaking, like something like, I don't know, Pulp Fiction, and then obviously there's films which might be, like, really kind of emotional, like something like Manchester by the Sea, and then obviously you could say, like, films that are, like, really kind of thematic, and obviously, there's loads of films that deal with, like, really interesting themes, I don't know, like, Moonlight or something like that. This film, I don't think it quite, like, nailed anything. Like, I don't think this film really had a solid theme. It definitely did have a kind of theme, but I mean, it was really sort of more just about, like, I think I used the term kind of pseudo-documentary to describe it, which is kind of what I would stand by as a description. Basically, it's a film which essentially says, hey, this is about this particular part of history, showing that stuff, and that is a good thing. The acting is good. There is some interesting filmmaking, and the characters are interesting. So, kind of like I already said, I'm not going to give it a low score. I think, I don't know, you'll probably maybe view this as an under rating. I'm going to give it a middling 7. And yeah, that's because I think it is interesting, but I don't think it kind of gets to the 8, 9, 10 territory of being, like, really kind of interesting and intriguing to me.
Yeah, no, I think it is quite interesting. I think it is quite intriguing. There are parts of it I really did enjoy, just seeing this world. Like, I am interested in this world because it is, I think objectively it's an interesting period of time, Porn, I think, is kind of interesting in the fact that, like, it's this, taboo thing, of course, but obviously people make a hell of a lot of money off it, and people watch it, and, like, people's daily lives it's just so weird to think about. Like, you know, their 9 to 5 is like having sex on camera. It's just very unusual. So to have, you know, a peek behind the curtain at this industry when it was at its, you know, in its heyday, and, you know, with funny, interesting characters, yeah, I think that is interesting. So I like the fact that he did the story. I will say though, you know, not to give it, obviously I'm not going to give it a 10 out of 10. Gene Siskel of the Chicago Tribune called it beautifully made, which I agree, that's another point in its favour, and praised the performances, again another point in its favour, particularly Mark Wahlberg I think is incredible, calling Reynolds absolutely centred and in control of his emotions, yeah, that's true, and saying Wahlberg couldn't be better, and yeah, I absolutely agree. However, he moderated his praise by saying, the early rave reviews accorded this film suggest a significance that I, however, did not encounter. Showbiz stories are all pretty much the same. Ambition, stardom, drugs, disillusionment, and, you know, they still are today, of course, with Elvis, like we said. Add the home video revolution to this mix and curiosity about the size of the Boy Wonders equipment. Throw in a few topical references like soft drink Fresca, and you have the bare bones of the story. And yeah, the point he's making is, it's basically just the same, but just with, like, you know, porn.
Yeah.
And, you know, the home video revolution, which is kind of interesting to see that play out, you know, in this movie, like it would have played out in real life. It's interesting to see the transition. But yeah, so that's the thing. That's what stops it from being an incredible movie, but it still is quite enjoyable. And yeah, I liked it for, you know, numerous reasons. So I'm going to give it an 8.5 out of 10 for me. For Boogie Nights. So yeah, 8.5 out of 10. What are we reviewing next week, Michael?
Well, Luke, next week we are actually getting into Spooktober, despite my hilarious jokes about Boogie Nights.
Yeah.
This is actually not a horror film. And yeah, so we're doing Spooktober, and we do have a vague theme of, like, not very good remakes, I think is what we decided at, but I think even then we're not consistent with it. But you know what, at the end of the day, there's already a theme, which is horror films, so even if we don't perfectly stick to an ancillary theme, who cares? Yeah, so we're doing Halloween Kills to celebrate the release of, what was it, Halloween Ends? Is that what it's called?
Yes, the final Halloween movie ever. This is it. There'll be no more after this, for sure.
I believe you.
Yeah, for sure. So anyway, join us for that next week at Halloween Kills. It really does kill you while watching that movie. Who have you been, Michael?
I've been Michael.
I've been Luke. Thanks for listening, and goodbye.
Goodbye.